Okay, I have 5:30. Let's go ahead and call the meeting to order. And if we could start by the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Hey, thank you all for being here. We want to just talk a little bit about our meeting guidelines, safety protocol. Purpose of this meeting is for the school board to conduct board business. Meeting is open to the public and is currently being recorded. You can listen to all past board meetings by visiting board docs through our district website. And this meeting is also being presented via Zoom. You want to remind folks it's not appropriate for audience members to interrupt board business or ask questions during the meeting. Agenda items will be listed as will be conducted in order of the agenda. And if there is an emergency, please exit in any of the exits closest to you. And with that, Director Jeffries, would you share our vision and mission statement?
Our vision, our community inspires and prepares each student to thrive. And our mission, in connection with our community, the Sequim School District empowers staff to inspire hope and provide flexible, innovative learning opportunities in a safe and respectful environment so that each student thrives.
Thrives. And survives. Sure. Director Halverson, would you share our land acknowledgement?
Sure. We acknowledge the land we stand on. The Sequim School District administrative and school buildings sit on the ancestral land of the S'Klallam people. While the S'Klallam traditionally come from one nation, history has led to the formation of three sovereign S'Klallam tribal governments: Lower Elwha Klallam tribe located in Port Angeles, Jamestown S'Klallam tribe located in Sequim, Port Gamble S'Klallam tribe located in Kingston, Washington. The district's primary partnership is with the Jamestown S'Klallam tribe. Today, the tribe and district share a partnership that includes official consultation on program and funding changes that may directly affect American Indian and Alaska Native students, as well as holistic service planning for students to remain successful in their educational journeys.
Thank you. Do want to acknowledge just before we get started that we do have a quorum of board members present. In addition to those here, we have Pat, Director Johnston, who is attending remotely, and Director Roca is excused. So we do have 4 of us here, as well as our student rep. So with that, we will go right into our special presentations, and we are going to start with middle school HOSA. Welcome.
I'm just going to introduce these guys.
Okay.
Am I talking to you or them? Okay. My name is Renee Caldwell, and I am the HOSA advisor for Sequim Middle School. In March, we traveled to Spokane for the State Leadership Conference, and this is a group of our 15 members. This is 6 of them.
Awesome. Welcome.
Hi, my name is Reese Hale, and I'm a member. Hi, my name is Kendall Adolph, and I'm vice president.
Hi, my name is Tara Stratford, and I'm a member.
Hello, my name is B Mao, and I'm a member.
Hi, my name is Emma Bixby. I'm the treasurer.
Hello, my name is Eleanor, and I'm a member.
My name is Grace Dormer, and I'm a member.
Next, please. Thank you. So we're here to kind of mainly talk about our state leadership conference at the Spokane Convention Center. Eleanor, do you want to talk about some of our workshops?
Yes. So many of us went to workshops. There were suturing, pathway to medical school, human anatomy lab, brain games, stop the bleed, and what's in the blood type.
And Grace, what workshop did you go to?
I went to a Narcan administration lab where we learned how to properly administer Narcan into the nasal cavity.
Eleanor?
I went to the cadaver lab, the human anatomy lab, and I got to see like 6 bodies at Wazoo Medical School. and we got to like see the brain, the heart of all these bodies.
I went to the pathway to dental field, and it was just talked about what colleges you need to go to and like what degrees you need to get to succeed in that career.
Reese?
I went to a day in the life of a trauma nurse where you learned about some things that you see on the job, what to do to get there, and more.
One of my favorite workshops was I went to Pathway to Medical School, and it was all about like how to get scholarships and how to talk to your peers about things that you like and choosing your dream career and getting into your dream college.
B and I went to a biomedical workshop spoken by a neurosurgeon about sleep and memory.
Next slide, please. So we also competed in events at the State Leadership Conference, and these are competition results. Eleanor?
So we had many state champions. We did absolutely amazing. We, had a state champion in Foundations of Medical Reading, a state champion in Health Career Preparation, a team of state champions in Health Education, and a state champion in Healthy Living.
So B, would you like to talk about the events you competed in?
I competed in dynamic decision as well as Tara, Grace, and one other member who is not here. We placed second in state, and we were dynamic decisions is a competition where you have to prepare a presentation on your secret topic and have to try and convince, kind of like a board, to administer your solution. Our secret topic was schools implementing the buddy bench and how to advertise it.
Sarah, would you like to talk about your events too?
Sure. I was also a part of Dynamic Decisions. I also did the health poster, the extemporis poster. It was about, you made a poster and it was about your secret topic. Ours was bed rotting, and I placed fourth in it.
I competed in health career preparation, which is at first you do a 300 to 600 word essay about your dream health career and why you want to be in that health career position. And I want to be a veterinarian. And I placed first. The second round was a mock job interview with a panel of judges. And yeah, it was super fun.
I placed first in Foundations of Medical Reading and Health Education, which is a team event. In Foundations of Medical Reading, I read 3 books and then did a test. In Health Education, I taught a lesson on first aid with my teammate, and we created a portfolio after and gave a presentation to a panel of judges.
Emma, what competitive events did you do?
I did the extemporaneous health poster, and I got third in that event. The same as Tara explained, it's a secret topic that once you get there, you have 4 hours to make a poster about this topic, and you get judged by, I think, 4 or 5 judges on that poster.
Eleanor, what did you compete in?
So I did Healthy Living, and it's when you like set a goal for like 5 to 10 months. And my goal was like to do a gratitude journal every day and write 3 things I'm grateful for. And it was to improve my mental health. And so the first round was a test that you had to qualify. And then you showed up for the second round with your portfolio. And I placed first in that.
What about you, Grace?
I placed third place in the Foundations of Medical Terminology event, which was a written test that was completed before the conference.
Next slide, please. We also competed in an event called an Anatomage tournament, and middle school and high school both had a team. There are 4 members, and Grace, do you want to talk about the Anatomage table?
Yes, the Anatomage table, like on the slide, is like a large iPad where you have the human body. The table will give us a part of the human body to point out, and if we point it out correctly, we get points.
It was a timed event, and Grace, Eleanor, and I, and also another girl that's not here, did it, and we placed first. Eleanor, talk about the prizes.
So we got $100 Amazon gift card each. And
We also
Yeah,
got
and
that
we got, like,
board
that
up
board.
on the top picture, and Miss Caldwell has it in her classroom now.
and we studied for like each body system. So I studied for the muscular system.
I studied the skeletal system,
I studied the nervous system and the circulatory system.
and the high school did have a team as well, but they did not place. It was super fun. Next slide, please. Oh, I think that's it, actually. Anyways, thank you guys so much for having us. Is there any questions?
Questions?
I just want to say congratulations to all of you.
Thank you.
Really wonderful, so impressive.
So, you said there's the, national, or the Nashville is upcoming, is that?
Yes.
Okay.
It's in like June 18th.
That would be the
Yes.
international conference.
Okay,
And we will compete there, like tests are like written there and it's pretty serious.
yeah. It's pretty exciting stuff. That's awesome. So special place in my heart for this, because like I think it was 4 years ago, my daughter went. I think it was the first time in SQUIM that they went with my daughter and was schooled, and they went, and for that whole conference, it was in Nashville. Yeah, so
And she got second like 2 years.
yeah, I think she
Yeah.
did. Yeah. So yeah, it's pretty exciting stuff. But yeah, well, just know we're gonna be rooting for y'all, and
Thank you.
congratulations.
And
Yeah.
I'd like to say one last thing. I remember when the Animatage table showed up and people were so excited about what could come of having this, and look what you have done, right? And so I think this is just a perfect example, and thank you for making it such a shining one, that when we bring opportunity to you as students, from the board, from your teachers, from all the adults around you, your families, look what you rise and do. So thank you for putting SQUIM on the map this way. It's absolutely fantastic. Great job.
Yeah. Mhm. All right, next on our agenda, I believe we're gonna be holding off on the Helen Haller one, so we're gonna push
Correct.
that off for
Yeah.
the next meeting, and so that brings us to SQUIM Hall of Fame, and I believe we have a few folks here for that. All right, welcome.
Where'd the audience go?
Come on up, Ian. Well, good evening. I'm Lori Taylor, class of 1981 from Squim High School, along with Ron Sather, class of 76, and Darren Doty, class of 89, and Coach Hill.
Longtime teacher.
Long time.
I
Yeah,
I have no class. Yeah.
you have lots of class. Anyways, we are a nonprofit that raised money for this Squim Hall of Fame, and last year was our first event, and we raised over $41,000, and it was amazing. We were able to give your athletic director a nice check to help fund am I taking part of your speech? I think we did a wrestling match, a mat, and a high jump
Pit.
and
Very cool.
helped with the sound system. So we also have a plaque for all the inductees that will be displayed somewhere prominently by the gym. Yep. You guys got anything to say?
Yeah, this is our first year, and it was really fun to get a whole board. I think we have 25, 30 members. Mostly all SQUIM residents or went to school here that just love the community. And we want to keep doing this for years to come. This year, I don't know if any of you guys went last year. Maybe, yeah, Reagan did. Yeah,
Reagan
yeah,
and Tracy.
really fun. A little bit cold, but the 7-seaters really helped us out with the tent and everything, and it was really cool to do it out to the golf course. And this year we're doing Cary Blake Park, be a little warmer in there for the second year. So yeah, we're gonna keep doing as many years as we can, as many people we can fill up, you know, to be able to. And you'll see if you actually check it out that they tried to do, you know,
The past.
the past basically, and people are still alive. Hopefully, first get them in, you know, that were really great back then. So
Mhm.
maybe 1910, not 10 and 20 and then there, but
Yeah,
they go pretty far back.
we have the class of 36, the class of 48 on here. It's just amazing to see the quality and the athletes that came way back then. I graduated from Squim High School. I did not know that this existed, so it was pretty amazing.
Coach Hill or?
Yeah, some of the people on that plaque, if you went to the event, heard them speak and talk, it is amazing what they have done with their lives post SQUIM. And they were outstanding athletes, but we take a hard look at what they've done after school as well. And especially on Summers on there and
Oh, and
and
Erica.
Erica. I mean,
Amazing.
it was just, there were some amazing stories. It's a really, really fun event.
It does. It really makes you proud that you grew up here and you went to school here and this is your community. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, we have a movie, Boys in the Boat, got that in there.
Nice.
And Olympic gold medalists, you know, so it's we have a pretty amazing history here if you didn't know already.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you guys should be
it's-
proud of
it's
students,
great.
you don't even know that yet.
More to come.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much.
All right.
Thank you so much. Okay, we appreciate the
Thank you.
partnership.
And so they referred to it in their talk. But so they have now donated about $27,000 to the high school athletics. We were able to purchase a brand new wrestling mat for our boys, girls, and middle school wrestling program, a new high jump pit for our boys and girls track and middle school track programs. And then most recently, they just approved a donation to be able to replace the sound system at the stadium. That will also be able to be transferred to possibly the baseball field or somewhere else once the new stadium is built after the bond is complete. So they've been great for us as a high school. You know, these are purchases that would take multiple years for our programs to save up for in order to make these purchases because they are so expensive. Excuse me. The wrestling mat was a $12,000 purchase. The high jump pit was an $11,000 purchase. So these are items that because they're so high ticket that it takes our programs a lot longer to raise money for. And so it's been great to be able to get these things for our programs that benefit so many of our athletes and upcoming athletes also. So I just want to make sure that we give them a big thank you. And we have like I think we put out a press release and things like that. Megan put one out for them when they did the donation that has been posted in the paper and things like that also. And the mat and the high jump pit say donated by Swim Hall of Fame on there to make sure that everybody knows where those purchases came from so that they know how our community supports our athletes here in Swim. So we just want to say thank you again for those things to the representatives while they're here.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. I think we're gonna be moving to 2.04 and month of the military child and going to you, Regan.
Sure. So, April is a month that has many recognitions, and so I just want to take a moment to touch on each one. Certainly, we do have the month of the military child. We have a number of students in Swim School District who have parents who are either currently serving in the military or have had careers in the past. And so we want to recognize the support that we certainly have for students who have come to our community through a military means or may continue to need support because those careers and having your family members deployed, for instance, it's a challenge and your school district needs to be supportive beside you, and SQUIM certainly is.
Yeah.
Also, we have Assistant Principals Week that occurred last week. And so we have an assistant principal at, of course, our Gray Wolf Elementary campus, our Helen Haller campus, our middle school and high school. And we'd like to thank them so much for all that they bring and the relationships they form with our students. We also have Administrative Professionals Day coming up on April 23rd. What we all know, for those of us who work in and around offices, is our administrative support folks who step up and carry so much weight for all of us when we're trying to make decisions and get things done. All those details are supported there. So we thank all of our secretaries out there in our buildings. And of course, one administrative professional is with us tonight, Tracy. Wonderful, wonderful support all the time. So it's a fantastic career, and I would encourage people who are interested in that support role to think about that when we have openings. We have Public School Volunteer Week. We have a robust volunteer pool here in Sequim. We've been developing that now for several years, and we have many interested parties. So we thank all of the folks who are coming in, sometimes for routines like reading with kids or doing special things, but also for field trip chaperoning and all of the different ways that happens. And then to close it out this month, we have a thank you to our school bus drivers. And our school bus driver team, of course, is working so hard right now. Finding school bus drivers is no easy task. Getting through all of those training levels that you need to is so important. So we thank our school bus drivers on high for all they do, and we're going to show our appreciation this month for sure.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, a lot of appreciation to go around, and certainly vital for the entire operation for sure. So
Absolutely.
thank you for highlighting it. Any other comments on that? Okay. All right. Thank you very much. And with that, we are going to go to the approval of our minutes, approval of our agenda, and approval of our consent agenda. Is there any objection to the approval of those three items as presented? Hearing none, we'll consider those approved. Just wanted to call attention again. We've already talked about it, but the generous donations that are part of that we approved. Certainly so appreciative of those. You have
Yes.
something?
Yes, I'd like to notice a couple of hires that were made on the consent agenda. We do have a new finance operations manager, Elijah Boyd, who's hired on the consent agenda, and his start date with us is April 28th. So at our next school board meeting, it's my hope that you'll get to meet Elijah in person and be able to hear a bit about his background. So we're very excited to welcome him. Also on the consent agenda is the hire of our assistant superintendent position. Donna Hudson's here with us tonight. I'd like to certainly recognize her service to the school district for decades, not just years. Yeah. And let you know that her start will be rather immediate. We've had some needs that we recognize that her service can help as we move into the transition to next year. We have a lot going on right now. So it will be an exciting new leadership path. And we will be having her join us up here as assistant superintendent in future meetings. So we can have report outs on all things from the assistant superintendent's office.
Excellent. Well,
Great.
congratulations. Did you want to say anything or? All right. And with that, we will moving right along to our public comments. This. Oh, okay. So that's not. All right, if you are attending via Zoom and would like to indicate or would like to make public comment, you may do so by using the raise hand feature down at the bottom of your screen. Please go ahead and do so now. Do not have anybody who has signed up for public comment in person. And I'm not seeing any hands raised online. So we will go ahead and close that portion of the meeting and move on to our student board representatives.
Good evening, everyone. I hope you're all well. To start off, seniors have been quite busy these past few weeks in preparation for graduation. So excited. Seniors have been out flocking in hopes of raising money for our Safe and Sober grad night party. So if you've been flocked, we hope you show your support for our senior class. And on another note, seniors are also excitedly awaiting senior ball, which is Friday, May 16th. from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. Tickets are now on sale and are $45 for seniors and $50 for any other guests. Moving on, the Sequim High School's Operetta Club will be putting on Rogers and Hammersteins, Oklahoma from May 2nd, 3rd, 8th, 9th, and 10th at 7 p.m. and May 4th and 11th at 2 p.m. And we hope that you will come out and support Sequim High School students. And that is all I have for you today. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. Within our leadership, we currently have our executive ASB elections happening right now. Throughout this week is the campaign week. Next Monday, we will be doing our speeches and voting. And also next week, we will be starting the process of our class elections, getting signatures for whatever office you're running for. Currently within the school, we have our state testing happening this week, I believe, for the seniors, right? Yep. And then next week it's for the sophomores, and I believe the following week the juniors. We had the end of the third quarter recently. And upcoming we have our FBLA. We'll be going to state next Wednesday, and we'll be there for the 23rd through the 26th. That is all I have.
You mentioned signatures for those running for election. What's entailed with collecting signatures? Just curious.
So if you're interested in running for a ASB position, whether it's class or the executive section, you need to receive 50 signatures of support from classmates. So if you're running for a class, it has to be people within your grade. But if you're running for executive, it just has to be 50 people who aren't seniors.
Okay. Good. Thank you. All right. That is going to bring us to reports to the board, and I believe we're going to start off with the winter sport report.
Move that so I can. My hands on the podium here. It's good to be back to give you guys a winter sport report update. Kind of go over the things that we accomplished during the winter sport seasons this year at Sequim. We had another pretty successful set of sports seasons. If we can go on to the next slide. We had 7 varsity teams that competed in different sports that equaled out to about 110 total athletes that played over 185 games and matches. 4 of those 7 teams qualified for the postseason during the winter season. And that does not also count that we had 17 individual state qualifiers for sports like wrestling and bowling that qualified for their state competitions as well. Good. The first thing I'd like to talk about is girls bowling. Girls bowling is coached by head coach Randy Perry. They had 14 girls participate this year, and they are the current back-to-back academic state champions for the state of Washington at the 2A high school level. They earned that with a 3.967 cumulative GPA that's the average of all of their team members. So basically every single one of those girls that bowl have an almost perfect GPA. They were the highest in the state by a wide margin. I think the next team that was closest to us was a 3.7. So they were, head and shoulders above the rest of the state academically this year. Out of the 14, 5 of our bowlers qualified for the district competition, and from districts, 2 of those bowlers qualified individually for state, and that was Victoria Nava and Skylar, who ended up placing 42nd and 47th overall out of state. But when you're talking about over 160 bowlers, that's still a pretty good finishing place. So a lot to be proud of with the bowling team. Next, we had our gymnastics team. This year, we only had 1 gymnastics participant, Lucy Spelker, actually ended up competing at the varsity level. We do a co-op with Port Angeles because our team is so small. We don't have the minimum number of participants that the WIA requires to have our own team. So there are 2 coaches from Port Angeles that coach both of those teams together, and that's Elizabeth DeFrang and Laura Rooney. They were both new this year. They replaced the coaches from last year, and they ended up having the only one of their team members that qualified for state this year was Lucy. She qualified for state on both the floor exercise and the beam. She competed at the district competition also in the all around and placed relatively highly in the all around, but she made the state cutoff for floor and beam. She ended up getting, I believe, 9th in the state on beam and 6th on the floor exercise. Boys swim is another sport that we're trying to grow here, back to its original size from pre-pandemic times. Right now, we only have 2 swimmers that competed this year, and so we did another co-op with Port Angeles for that sport as well. Both of those swimmers did qualify for district, but they did not swim fast enough to make it out of district to swim at the state competition. But they are actively recruiting kids and looking to expand that program for next year to where hopefully we will have our own boys swim program next year. We have to have a minimum of 5 swimmers to qualify via the state. And then we can start looking to have our own head coach and things like that, so we can move forward with that program hopefully next year. Then our other sports that we have, we're going to start out with girls basketball. Girls basketball was coached by head coach Jocelyn Jolmis. They had a team GPA of a 3.375 overall, which was also pretty good. It was not high enough to earn any state academic recognition as far as all state or anything like that, but it's still a pretty good GPA overall. They had 22 total girls competing on 2 teams, a varsity and a JV team this year. The varsity struggled a little bit this year. They had a young team. They had a couple seniors that played significant minutes, but most of the team were younger. One of those is Gracie Charchar right there. She's going to be a returning starter next year. She earned 2nd team all league awards from the Olympic League. And then Taylor Heading won the sportsmanship award as voted on by the other coaches in the Olympic League for the basketball team. Wrestling is coached by head coach Tyler Izot. They had also a pretty good GPA. If you know anything about wrestlers, they're not necessarily the most academically minded kids all the time. So having a team GPA of a 3.087 is actually really good. There are quite a few individuals on that team that have struggled in previous years with their grades, and Coach Izot has done a really good job of encouraging academics on that team and bringing those kids up to their actual potential in the classroom. And so he's done a great job with those guys. He has very high expectations of his wrestlers, both in the classroom and on the mat. And that can be seen by the fact that he sent 13 wrestlers to the state tournament this year down in Tacoma. We had 12 boys and 1 girl that qualified for state. 3 of those wrestlers finished in the top 10 in their weight classes in the state. Bailey Stein on the girls' side, and then we had James Mason and James Villanova as was the other top finisher on the team this year. And then finally, boys basketball. Probably the most obvious level of accomplishment this year. I know that we were all kind of following them. The basketball team started off the year 19-0, ended up dropping a few games at the end in league, and then also a couple in the playoffs, but was still able to qualify for the state tournament. They finished 3rd in our district tournament, and they qualified for the state tournament in Yakima for the first time since 2013. There were 44 boys basketball players on 3 teams for Coach Brooks, who's the head coach of that program. They had an overall GPA of 3.129, which again is pretty good for that program. He's done also a good job of encouraging the athletes in that program. They only had 1 out of 44 athletes that ever fell onto the ineligibility list throughout the entire season. And that was a sophomore who was only on there for a couple weeks. He brought his grades up, and then they didn't have any ineligible players for the rest of the season. All league awards, Solomon Shepard, who's pictured there on the slide, he won Defensive Player of the Year in the Olympic League, which is basically like the defensive MVP award for basketball. And then Jericho Jolmist was selected as a first team All Olympic League player. And then also recently, he was also voted on by the local media as being the All Peninsula Team MVP. He led the team in scoring and in most of the statistical categories on the team this year. He's a sophomore this year. He'll be coming back for a couple more years. Coach Brooks is really excited about his team. They graduated 3 seniors. 2 of those were starters, but the rest of them are all coming back, and they hope to, you know, to make another deep run in the state playoffs next year. So as far as that kind of sums up everything for winter. As far as the spring coming up, we're well into the spring season now, just because of the way timing worked as far as this report. So baseball, boys and girls golf, boys soccer, track, softball, and tennis have all been playing now for a month. They're all off to pretty decent starts. Baseball is kind of sitting right there in the middle of the pack in league. Boys and girls golf has been successful throughout the season. They're setting themselves up really well for their league tournament, which occurs on April 28th. That'll be at the North Kitsap Golf Club this year. And then boys soccer is also positioning themselves for a playoff run. They currently sit in 4th place, I believe, in the league standings. And then boys and girls track, we had our first home track meet in, I believe, I was told 9 years. Back at the beginning of April, we had 8 other teams here. Had a really good track meet, went really well. The athletes were all excited about getting to run on their home track for the first time in a while. We have another home track meet coming up on Thursday against Bremerton of this week. If anybody wants to come out and attend that track meet, just to kind of see how a track meet works. And then we have our girls tennis team is going, because of the weather last month, a lot of the girls tennis matches were postponed until this month. And now with the weather, like for this week, we have our tennis team is competing 4 straight days in 4 different places. And then next week they have 3 straight days where they compete in 3 different places. So they're kind of running through their gauntlet right now. But the competitions they have had, they've won both of those. So right now they're undefeated as a team. They are looking to continue that success here through this next kind of gauntlet part of their season because of all the weather reschedules. And then softball, fast pitch softball has Coach Mike McFarland, who's been here for a while, has a very young team. They're mostly underclassmen. He has 4 players that have never played softball before. So they're doing a lot of learning and kind of growing right now. They're currently playing 8th ranked in the state, North Kitsap, holding their own. I mean, they're playing hard, and that's really with the team with the experience that they have right now. That's really all we can ask of them. The girls go out there every time they're out there on the field, and they play hard and they don't quit, and they do what they can do, but they're going through some growing pains right now. And but you know, coach has them, their spirits are high, and they know they've got, you know, stuff to fight for, and they're hoping to still qualify for the tournament here at the end of the year. And, you know, make some noise in the playoffs. So overall, our spring sports are looking really good. And, you know, I look forward to coming back in May and talking to you guys about the success we had in the spring as well. So I'd like to open it up to any questions. If you guys have questions about anything, otherwise, that's pretty much all I have.
Great.
Good.
Questions?
I just wonder, when you said some of these sports are underpopulated, like swimming, and you mentioned recruitment, what do you think caused that sort of decline, and what kind of things do you do with recruitment to get students to turn in?
So as far as recruiting goes, we really just have the kids that participate in the sports. They talk to their friends and they try to get them to come out. We try to find kids that maybe are interested in the sport that don't know that we offer it, especially with boys swimming. I know boys swimming occurs at a weird time as far as season wise. Where most of our boys, you know, are playing basketball or wrestling, things like that. And girls swimming happens in the fall. And so there's kind of a weird disconnect there. We had a pretty large boys swimming program here previously because we had a core of kids that had swam together since they were little. And then all those kids kind of graduated and there wasn't really anything behind them. And so now we've got some kids that are interested from the boys' side that are interested in swimming again. And so that's going to start to build up here, I think, over the next few years. It's just trying to get that interest back and trying to attract kids that maybe have never swum competitively before and things like that. Same thing with gymnastics. Gymnastics is such kind of a niche sport that you kind of have to be started really young. And so it's hard to really grow that without like a gymnastics gym that's super local, or, you know, a youth program that specifically gears itself towards things like that. So those are just areas that we have to, you know, kind of look outside the box to try to get more participation in.
Yeah, I just think of swimming as one of these lifelong
Yeah,
sports.
for sure.
It's really great to get them started on it.
It is.
Okay. Anything else? All right.
Thank you very much.
you very
Thank
much.
Appreciate you guys.
Thank you.
All right. Yeah. Next, we're gonna be doing the highly capable annual report. Welcome.
Nice to see everybody.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm back again for our annual report with our reporting to OSPI as well. I'm gonna switch. So I know you've seen this before. We talk about that highly capable students need something different, specialized support, because they are just as far off that bell curve as our students who receive special education services. Next slide, we'll go through pretty quickly. One of the most telling signs is that asynchronous development, where oftentimes their cognitive abilities are heightened in comparison to their social emotional, and they need additional supports to manage those behaviors. Some of those key traits that I've kind of put together here, Colorado does a beautiful job of putting together things for their program, so this comes from them. And how those same traits can be perceived in both a positive as well as a negative light. And then we have our current percentages. So one of the things that you'll notice is our low income numbers are off. We think that's mainly due to we provide all students with free and reduced lunch now, so our reporting is a little bit skewed. So that we're finding that statewide with highly capable programs that we're having a hard time tracking that data point anymore. One of our big concerns, though, was the number of referrals with male versus female students, and we've been really attacking that the last couple of years. And if you want to go to the next slide, you can see that the last 2 years, we've gotten it close to balancing it out again. So hopefully we'll see some bigger changes in the program overall now with that.
What made that possible? Was it just really focusing on it or talking with teachers or?
Yep, all of the above. We put out lots of newsletters, really having lots of discussions within the buildings as I would go to building about typically what we do is we notice the boys more in elementary due to they have different behaviors. The girls tend to want to read at their desk, or they find things to do. Just developmentally, they're at a different stage where the boys act out more. And so we've ended up with, I think things got skewed once we really pushed out there a little bit more about how to notice traits from those underrepresented groups, not just girls, but students from multilingual backgrounds. We started seeing those numbers come up again. So I wanted to thank Megan for this. She helped us redo the webpage, change things up a little bit, make things easier to find. The other thing that we've done is we've put all of our referral forms and appeals forms, permission forms in an online format. So families can still obtain paper copies if they need it at any of the building offices. But by going this way, we also now have a little bit better control over the referral window open date. So just a quick blurb on the plan here. So the funding from the state is still only based on 5% of our population. Even though there really isn't any district in the state that's at that, everyone tends to be anywhere between 8 and 12%. And we are right at 10.
So it's kind of similar to the same thing we've talked about with SPED, where the
Yeah.
state funds it at an arbitrary percentage regardless of the identified. Same thing with this.
Yep,
It's
same thing.
5% regardless what the qualifiers are.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I write private grants to obtain what we need to run the program for the students that we can't provide with district funds.
Yeah.
Yeah, on to the next. So for our form this year, and I'm sorry that they still have not changed out their reporting format, so it's difficult to read through those papers they give us. Forms 1 and 2 is all about the screening procedures, and we don't use a universal screener in terms of a COGAT screener. We just don't have the funds for it, nor do I feel like it's really the most effective. We already have so many data points on kids. They're already tested in so many different ways. So here's a little snapshot of all the data that we look through. And based upon that data, then we generate a list that we then reach out to those students and their families, as well as their teachers, and encourage a referral. Next. And then for this is what we look at when we're making determinations about which students need services. One of the things we do is, as students are testing as well, we make sure that all their accommodations are followed. I also touch base with all the teachers and find out, even if the student doesn't have necessarily an in writing accommodation, things that work a little bit better for them, and we make those adaptations. The other thing, that was on there as well is that we also can use WIS scores in lieu of a COGAT for our special needs students. And the final page of the form is we go ahead and we have to do kind of a reporting of what our services look like for them. And the different values, this all goes into our CEDARS data. So, whenever you're ready, go to the next slide.
How much time does all that reporting take you?
It goes in waves. So when we have newly identified students, there's quite a bit of time getting all that data put in. And then it quiets down again, and then it's just minor changes here and there, keeping track of individual students. But most of it is heavy in the fall, heavy in the spring. And then here are the goals that we sort of set for the year. One of our big focuses is working with the existing curriculum that we have and trying to extend it and enrich it by using higher order thinking strategies and questions and projects. And so we've worked with the teachers to make sure that they have lots of examples of those to draw upon so they can follow that. We also use the Birdseed TV for teachers in grade 1 through 8. And that is a website that is nothing but lessons and strategies. It also provides a teacher PD section to it as well that we can share out. And it's PD that's done in like typically under 5 minutes and provides lots of activities that teachers can use immediately with their students. And it's, again, all geared towards those higher order thinking and strategies. The last 2 years now, year and a half, we've used Beast Academy as an enrichment program that's also been received through a grant. Our results on that so far are pretty stellar, as far as really one of our biggest issues is getting growth out of our highly capable students. Their achievement scores tend to be high, but getting growth most of their scores tend to be low. And so using the Beast Academy, we're seeing some really nice gains with the math. And then the final one is Jacob's Ladder that we are also using this year and can use in further years. We've already taken care of all those expenses with it. And that's an extension program for English language arts. Again, all focused on higher order thinking, using trade books, poetry, speeches, non-fiction text. So lots of things there. Let's see, I meet with all of the teachers at the elementary level on a weekly basis during planning time once a week. And then I also meet with our teachers at the middle school level as well, typically monthly, but oftentimes it also tags in capture in the hallways, things like that. to help them with their programs. We do the monthly newsletters to staff to take care of updates to the program, as well as any PD that's coming up. WayTag does a monthly PD. It's free clock hours, and they have a different focus each month, which is great. And that's all done via Zoom. And let's see, and to staff as well, we do a monthly newsletter to our elementary program staff. And it tends to be more quarterly to the secondary students. And those are mainly, for secondary, it's mainly focused on experiences that they can have outside of the classroom, outside of the district. The elementary one is keeping parents informed about what's going on during the high cap program, during that pullout time. And obviously increase in student instructional time. With that, I mean, time with me. So we've added on some additional time there. Underneath identification, we've been working on referrals. We've updated the website. And the upcoming thing is our placement of all our newly identified students, along with our existing students who receive services, into the cluster classroom model. I know one of the things you've been seeing lots about are the tiers of support. And so one of the things we want to look at is that students who receive highly capable services also fit in with that model. That we're looking at services within the classroom, and then that supplemental challenge and individualized services. About that. It's kind of a little nutshell of the bigger ticket items that I do. We can go through it unless there's any questions there. Okay. So any questions for me?
I guess I am interested in that issue, that problem of achievement versus growth. And do you feel like you have a handle on that in terms of how to provide students with the opportunity for actual growth? Is it acceleration or just?
It's going to be individualized for each student. So because as we know, not all students are identified across the board in all areas. So there's no easy magic bullet for that one. So that's why we have the Beast Academy program is really easy. It's an online platform. So there's nothing additional that teachers have to prepare, and the students can access it anywhere. So that's been really nice and has been effective so far, what we're seeing. And then the ELA portion, doing the Jacob's Ladder, seems to be helping a bit as well. I don't have all the reports in for spring yet, so we'll see how that goes. That one's more time intensive. So I've been doing it during the pull-out times as opposed to it being able to happen anywhere like the Beast Academy.
Right. Do you have all those, at least you have those curriculums to sort of work with to help those kids, push those kids a little further.
We do, yeah. And then we still use the Birdseed and any other additional things that the students are interested in. We create and go from there.
I have another question just on the different side of it. Do we, you know, it's great that we have this process. It's so multifaceted in terms of identifying students and offering them these services. Do we see that most students opt in for that, or do we have a group that doesn't, or do you have any sense?
We just have one student who's opted out, who's at the high school level. Otherwise, yeah, everyone's within the program that's been identified.
Thank you.
Yeah.
One question I have, you had mentioned, because sometimes they may qualify in certain areas, right? How does that affect the clustering model? Are they all still clustered together regardless if it's an area they qualify for or not, or?
So the way we do the cluster model is we take a look still at their achievement data as well. We try to put them, well, in the younger grades where there's fewer of them, we've put them all together in one class with a teacher. Grades 3 through 5, they've been split into 2 classes. And so with that, we still use the same model for every student as let's make sure it's balanced.
Okay.
Yeah, recognizing that they're not always high achieving in all areas.
Right.
Or high achieving at all, quite frankly.
Okay. So 2 different classes in 3, in 3rd, 4th, and 5th, essentially. There's 2. Okay.
Yeah.
Other questions?
Lincoln?
Okay.
All right.
All right. All
Thank
good.
you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Next, we have our facilities report. Welcome.
Hello. Board members, superintendent, student board members, good evening. So I've got a few slides for you tonight. It's shorter than the typical 10 and the font size is all larger than 8. This one's pretty fast. It's not because we're not busy, it's because we actually are incredibly busy in the background, preparing for bond construction and other exciting things to come. So current updates, capital levy projects. The HVAC project here at the high school is in commissioning and it's ongoing. The building management system is commissioning, actually started today, and it'll continue on probably through next week. Probably take us about 30 days to get through that. In progress work is the gym doors have punch list items to complete, so stay tuned there. Capital projects on the horizon. Construction management RFQ for the CTE bond is on the street. Thanks to Miss Norman's help. It went on the street yesterday. Capital levy January rebaselining is holding. Potential additional projects to be reviewed in May. 3 tab roofs and so on. So you heard that right. That fund has now gone positive. Okay. So we'll be reviewing additional projects during the summer. Specific facility updates. Mr. Charette completed the OPA gym paint. It's quite a piece of work, really, to be honest with you. Amazing stuff. The guys completed the ball stop netting system on the stadium field to protect the track team from errant soccer balls. As far as I know, it's working okay. All right, well, that's good news. Carpet cleaning across the district was completed. We spot cleaned, kind of targeted some specific things that we knew about. There were parts of the district office that hadn't been cleaned in a long time. Our little house on the prairie here over in maintenance, built in 1943, hadn't been done in anybody's recent memory. So we were glad we got those done. Spares clean out of the pool room. You all know what the infamous pool room is by now. It's where the pool used to be. To the MX storeroom, maintenance storeroom. Pardon me, superintendent. I promise I'll stop the acronyms when I stay. Storeroom in the mill vans is ongoing, so we're still moving things out of there and still piling things up, getting ready to ask. Perhaps some of it's surplus, but we believe most of it is probably going to be refuse, and it's probably going to go when the building goes. Replaced the exterior privacy screens on both the high school locker rooms, as depicted by the bright purple paint that you'll see on those locker room exits now. We got the preventive maintenance done on the Holler HVAC units, middle school HVAC units, the Gray Wolf Bard units, which is the portables. So those units sit on the outside of the portables, and the district office HVAC. So, which is what we're enjoying currently. CTE monitors are installed at the high school cafeteria, H building, and middle school cafeteria. That was a project that predates me. Grant captured 6 monitors, 70 inch, I think, or 72 inches. And the intention was to use them as student information portals. So we finally got those out of the locker bays, had an electrician put electricity in the proper places, and they're now finally hung up. We'll get them hooked into the internet and into the network here shortly. And Ned and his group over in business will be informing students therefore. Okay. Happy to report that the auditorium sewer line repair for now is complete. Yeah, that deserves a round of applause, truly. Small district modernization grant decision. Crickets. was supposed to, we were supposed to hear something probably third week, fourth week in February. And here we are. I've reached out to some of my other colleagues, crickets, no word, literal silence. Summer projects. The main gym floor here at the high school will be rescreened and recoated for the first time. We're gonna add some stripes too, because the coaches wanted some additionals. That PO's been issued. It's on the board. We're gonna start the week of the 4th. Middle school gym floor, water damage, sand recoat. I've got one quote in hand. The risk adjuster and risk is awaiting one more quote to finalize the claim. I had a contractor out last week and I'm awaiting his submittal. When I get that, I will send it over to the risk adjuster. And we are hoping that we can get on the board with somebody this summer, one of those two contractors, and get that main gym at the middle school completely sanded down, completely restriped, completely refinished. The risk adjuster is also awaiting quotes to repair the baseball field, foul ball screens, and reinstall the batting cages. These are damages that were done during a very large snow and ice storm that predates the superintendent actually, and predates me certainly. We found out that there was a pending claim still with risk that hadn't been acted upon, so we're acting upon it. And we're hoping that we'll get something from them, given the time value, cost of money. We're hoping we'll get something that'll help us out. And then we'll decide where we're gonna put batting cages where they don't interfere with our wonderful bond construction. So, tennis court rehabilitation funding has been identified. We have received a donation, which you'll hear about. And that work is scheduled with Bainon, and it begins the 7th of July. And to be specific, it's the 2 south tennis courts that are ones that are right there on First Street. Those are the ones that get heavily used by our community members. And those will be the courts that could get rehabbed. 5-year warranty. They say it's a 10-year lifespan. Thank you. Any questions?
I have one. We have ICOS assessments coming up later on the agenda. Could you just give a brief description of what they will be reviewing?
Sure. So there's, let me start with the mea culpa. So what you see in this particular document is the whole ball of wax. The ICOS assessments that were due this year were on 3 specific structures. So it was an executive summary. You would have seen them on just 2 structures. Building H, there was another building at the high school, and I can't recall the other one, but it was 3. This is 82 pages or 84 pages. This is the whole ICOS assessment that we do every year. Every 6 years, we have to go through a certified assessment. So there's some of that data in here as well. I will tell you, unless you're a facilities data geek, this will put you to sleep. But there's some important information in here from the aspect of the backup that we have that backed up the scores that we presented to the public during the period of time that we were campaigning for the bond. So, you know, if you wanted to go through it, it's very convoluted. It's very detail oriented. It's lots and lots of lines of stuff, but within that particular document is the backup for the poor ratings and for the fair ratings and for the fair ratings. Okay. If you have any questions on this later on, feel free to email myself and the superintendent. I will be happy to answer your questions. But to be clear, that has to be done every year at some level. What you're seeing is the comprehensive that was done due to the 6 year. All right. Sure. Any other questions? And I'm happy to speak to it when this comes. Oh, is it now in the agenda? All right. I'd be happy to speak to any of the detail that you've been or that you may have read to a little bit later. All right.
The remedy for the sewer for the auditorium, did you find that that is a solution that you think will be longer lasting than shorter? Or should the board be anticipating that there needs to be more work coming soon?
There's no more work coming soon. the line's been completely cameraed now. From the points in which, the points in the lines that we knew were failed. And the parts of the line that we knew it's dinner time for most problematic. So the bottom line is we've cambered it now. It's clear for now. We know that there are some endemic problems with it because of its what's called fall. In other words, it doesn't tilt low enough towards the sewer. It's supposed to be so many inches per so many feet of fall, you know. And without getting too technical with you, right now, we're confident that it's going to stay clear for some time. We're going to have it maintenance jetted again in the summer after all the theater stuff is done, probably in July. And at that time, we'll have it cambered again. And we'll see that if any problems are going to repeat themselves. In other words, if there's any indication that it might give us some trouble again. If it does show us some signs of trouble, then we would probably go through the repiping process that we talked about previously, was intercepting the cast under the building, going out into the courtyard, and then moving out to the 10-inch that's out in the quad. So, but we're not ready to go there yet. I mean, that's thousands of dollars, and we're going to try to avoid that and hope that maintenance jetting every once in a while solves the problem.
That was where we had, there was a question about whether or not the repair was gonna take some, there was like an emergency grant type thing
Yeah.
that we were gonna have to look into, right?
Yeah, there was that question at one time. We were concerned that we were going to have to excavate all the way to the 10-inch, which again is out in the middle of the concrete out there. And in doing so, we would have had to have broken up the ADA ramp that's to the side over, you know, as you walk out the theater, or walk out the building. To the left is the ADA ramp.
Mhm.
Well, the line itself runs under that ramp into the crawl space. And if we were to have to replace the line as we originally envisioned, we would have had to have broken up all that concrete. Broke that whole porch up and excavate it all the way to the 10-inch, like I said, that's out in the middle of concrete. That would have been a very, very significant expense. And it would have been a viable reason to ask for you to declare an emergency. But we don't believe that the work that has been done so far rises to that level.
I know this building's quite a ways away from like where construction will be taking place regarding
Yes.
high school and whatnot, but are these systems somehow connected? Any chance one project could influence another project?
Yeah,
that
that's a
we
good
need to
question.
think about in the future?
As far as one project influencing another project broadly, no.
Okay.
Unless you're talking CTE versus high school. Those are the two projects that have intersections or potential intersections. If you're referring to the infrastructure systems that serve the DO and serve the auditorium, no. Now they connect to infrastructure systems, specifically the 10-inch sewer that runs all the way back into the back end of the property of the high school.
Okay.
All the way to building E. All right. I would imagine, and I would expect that main sewer line will be utilized again. When the high school is reconfigured and constructed.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
it does. Yeah.
Great.
Other questions about the report? I don't, anyone?
Sounds good.
Thank you.
I just want to thank the facilities department for the tenacity and the partnership with outside entities. You know, you think about the Helen Haller sewer vault compressors, those have been rebuilt and delivered or on their way.
Yeah, they're
On
on
their way. We have this situation where partnering with local plumbing vendors to get the situation found out with the auditorium. And then we have remedies that are actually not significantly expensive compared to what could be done if we had to do something radical. So I just appreciate that you are working so hard with these folks who are thinking outside the box for us.
Yes, of course. Thank you. One more item of note, if you don't mind. Before we embark on replacing buildings A, B, C, D, and E, there have to be engineering studies to evaluate the capacity of the current infrastructure that's on the property.
Mhm.
So with those engineering studies come risk analysis. So we have to definitely locate where the utilities are, whether that's potable water, electrical capacity, of course, and then sewer and sewer capacity. So all those engineering studies in the very front end, before we ever go to 20% or 30% design, will spawn a risk analysis. If those risks are significant, then we stop and we talk about how we're going to mitigate that risk. And those are conversations that are happening at, of course, at the construction level, and of course at the executive level, depending on the depth of risk. So the process will determine how much of that infrastructure gets utilized, and then how much of the infrastructure is currently usable in its current configuration. If that makes sense. Okay, cool.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right. Next, we have I love you guys. Okay.
Okay, so welcome to Standard Response Protocol and an introduction to this system. What I'm going to do is just hand around our critical incident response checklist. We're going to talk about what this is and why. What I'd like to share with you is that in SCWIM, school safety processes and procedures have been traditionally reviewed and followed by using a quick reference checklist. It's actually been pretty effective. It gives folks the need to know of what they need to respond to, how to do that, who to call, and gives a number of scenarios. We are introducing tonight's Standard Response Protocol from the I Love You Guys Foundation, because this is a systems-based process for how to respond in all kinds of scenarios that you might find on our checklist. So in part, these two systems can work together, but the Standard Response Protocol is a system that our whole ESD region is now looking at. And so I want to be sure you're hearing about it and know that our school district has already started to use this for our reunification planning. Okay, you see the checklist there. We have these in every classroom space, in offices, and if something were to occur, you simply take this chart, flip right to the place where you need to have direction, and you'd get the process steps that you would need, also phone numbers, so that you're able to make a response as you need to. We recognize that all of these different response scenarios continue to require training and awareness on part of our staff, but we'd like to have an effective way to let communication flow so that people know instantly what act to take immediately. Okay. The I Love You Guys Foundation was created following an unfortunate circumstance with a school shooting. This foundation has come to create the Standard Response Protocol so that there is quick action, and so that entire populations of organizations can respond immediately and have it be simple, because simple makes a big difference in times of need, and also to have it be accessible for students to understand and implement themselves. We recognize that we have a lot of specific incidents. We have them there on our checklist, but there are gaps because you can't put every single scenario that could ever happen on a flip chart. So to have a system that is training us take these steps just from a simple word or phrase would allow people to implement some type of action regardless of the circumstance. Of course, the checklist is valuable because there are details in all of the situations listed that we'll probably decide to retain, but we also want to move forward with these actions. So here is the standard response protocol action-based framework. There are 5 key actions. These are trained in the organization. So if approved, we will move forward over the next year. It's going to take a while to get everybody trained to act out on each of these different words and phrases so that our whole system would know what to do. So hold. This would be a situation where we would ask that students and teachers are holding in the classroom where they are in that current moment, and there would be no activity in the halls, no exchange. Folks would just be staying there, but you could still be doing schoolwork in your classroom. Okay, why would we need this? Say there's a fight in a hall and you don't want to have people moving toward that situation. It's not something that you need to stop everything in a classroom, but you don't want to have too many doors open, people free flowing. Secure. Secure is get inside, lock the outside doors. Think about this. Think if we have this scenario, which we've lived, Arco Station out at Grey Wolf. There's some type of event there. We put a secure out so that we're bringing students in from recess. School can still go on safely within the school, but we're not going to let anybody in the building. So we would secure the area. Right now, we have terms like lockdown, lockout that gets confusing and also causes, we feel, some undue stress when in fact inside the school is perfectly safe. So lockdown is exactly what you think it is. It is lock the doors, put your lights out, have students in a place that's very safe and secure, low, so that you're not noticed, out of sight. And this is if we do have some type of infiltration into the school and we have an intruder, we need to address that situation.
That's gonna be something as opposed to secure. Lockdown is definitely gonna be something that will be affecting the normal operation.
Correct.
Inside the building, for sure. It's not business as usual.
Not
inside
at
the
all.
building.
That's
Right.
correct. Yes. Okay, evacuate would be moving the school population from one school building to another building. It may not be another school. It could very well be a church. It could be a community location that's agreed upon. Typically, when you're evacuating, you're either moving all of your student population by walking to another building, or you might be loading buses and moving students out. So that term would be trained on. That's one thing we're working on here, is a reunification plan that does involve evacuation at the front end. Then we have shelter. Many folks know the term, the phrase shelter in place. That's really designed for if you have some type of a hazardous situation. So maybe it's a chemical spill. Maybe it's a situation where you've had some type of accident close to your site and you want to make sure that students are all in one place so that there's protection. They list here some of the climate-based issues that could happen. I think certainly we don't have tornadoes so prevalent here. Earthquakes, you wouldn't necessarily always be in a shelter situation if you have buildings as old as ours. We have to train for protection and then evacuation. So this type of a program, can you imagine if we had regional attention to this and you have a big event, a basketball game, and you have teams from different school districts and everybody knows how to respond to this type of call out. I think a regional approach is really smart. I also like the clarity of this system, and many school districts have adopted it. So here are the icons. One thing that is a strength of the standard response protocol is the visual aspect of it. This is an entirely free program. That is one of the wonderful things about it. All of these visuals are available in different types of forms you'd want: posters, icon visuals for classrooms, able to have technical access to it. So I think it's a great system that we need to consider, and training is being considered for the entire region in August through October. A date is being reviewed right now. Okay. So what is next? The ESD is organizing this region-based utilization. So right now they're asking which districts would be willing to consider this protocol and train on it, and if so, move ahead to pick training dates. SQUIM school district participation is something I want to talk with you about tonight and understand what your questions might be or your support to move forward. The reunification protocol that is developed by this foundation is excellent. We've already been using it for about 15, 18 months to work toward a reunification plan. So I would say tried and true. And then also school board adoption is important because we will be having to invest. We'll have to invest time to train. We'll have to invest resources to make sure that we are getting the printing done, and it's going to be replacement of things like the checklist. But I do think that this direction is one that's proven in so many school districts, and I'd like to just hear your consideration of it.
Well, I watched the video, and I will say the production values weren't that great, but this is a free program, right? And it did cover the territory, and there were two things that did impress me. And one was the clarity of language, that it really made a special effort to really make the language really clear, not just for staff, but for students, so that everybody sort of knows what they're supposed to do. And I appreciated that. And they also made a reference to the goal of not traumatizing students during training, because that's always the difficulty when you're trying to alert your student population to some possible terrible event, that you essentially have to live through the event to be trained, and how to do that without unduly traumatizing your students. So I appreciated, I don't know exactly how they would do that, but I appreciated that they mentioned that in their video. So that seemed useful.
One thing I'm curious about, it seems to come up whenever we're talking about, I think by and large, staff sometimes have some general expectation about protocols during a typical operation or typical day. Okay, we're gonna do it, like they rerun drills and it's okay, there's drill. But when one of those actions has to take place, and it's not just in the middle of class, but like what lockdown or evacuation, what those would have to look like if it's like 1 minute into students arriving, right? And so, or it's right when everybody is at an assembly, or on all of those different parameters that I feel like sometimes you never know when something is going to happen. And so I appreciate your point about not overly traumatizing the training, but also considering that sometimes the training has to be like in a non-typical scenario, non-typical time of the day, this question came up in the situation that had happened in Port Angeles when it was, there was an emergency situation, but it was after dismissal. But you still had students present. Like what happens then? So I think there's all these scenarios out there that I feel like are just as important that as a typical scenario.
One strength of this system, in my opinion, is that it's about movement. So each of the words has a degree of movement or not. And once you can train on that, you can apply it, use your best judgment to call for the movement that you think would make the best decision. So I can see in an assembly situation, you might be able to get students back to the classroom in a safe manner if that movement is not putting them in harm's way, but you might make the decision to call a different term if it did. So I think it has a nimbleness to it. But you do have to talk out these scenarios. And one thing we're going to be moving toward is thinking about how our school safety teams work, and have some safety coordination that's coming from a district lens to be unifying. So we're all talking about the same things. We're all bringing up scenarios. perfect example.
I also think about, although we'll see how things go with our facilities, there might be some unification happening, but I think about our high school, right, where we have students, during a school day, it could be that students are over at auditorium, which is a separate building. We have students that are across the street at band, and what happens when one action makes sense for maybe some parts of the building, but not others, or other parts of the campus. And so that's another consideration too.
Yes, certainly is.
Yeah, I think it was several months ago, and I can't remember. We had first responders come to a safety committee meeting. And I can't remember if it was fire, law enforcement, or both.
It was fire.
Okay.
Mhm.
And they had attended a national convention. And I Love You Guys was one of the programs that they saw introduced there, and they were impressed with it and had talked about it as something we should look into. I think we'd already started to look into it, but then them coming back from Houston or wherever it was they had gone, and they had heard about the program and thought highly of it. Impressed me. So I'm glad we're following down this route.
Any thoughts from your perspective?
I do, actually.
Excellent.
I believe that the keywords would be amazing for students. I mean, I don't remember if it was last week or 2 weeks ago, we had what would be identified as a secure drill at the high school. Something local in town was happening. But we didn't use the word secure, and we used, I think it was lockdown, don't quote me, but one of those bigger words. And that can incite a lot of panic within the students. I know my Spanish class was really nervous about what was happening. I mean, we had people out in the hallways recording, and we just heard that we're going under lockdown. So I think hearing something more like secure might bring a little bit more relief to the situation, especially when it was on campus. So I really do like the implementation of more words instead of just one broad umbrella term. However, though, I do think that there are definitely very useful things on this list that should not be disposed of. I mean, I guess if we're moving to bigger words like secure and not bigger, but more words like secure and such, we could definitely get rid of some of these. But I believe we need to keep maybe a shorter form of the checklist, especially on some of these, not so much for the students, but for the teachers. Just looking at of some of these instances on here.
I think that is a great insight because the calls on the standard response protocol are just to have initial decisions made, and that checklist does go into the depth. You need to know of what to do next and where to turn. So thank you for bringing that up.
Any other thoughts?
Nope, that's all, and you'll be acting on this later in the agenda.
Okay.
Okay.
Excellent. All right. And I believe you're up next with the superintendent report.
All right, so I'd like you to know that the ESD does have a superintendent regional meeting once per month. And on I believe it was the 27th of March, we did go down to Central Kitsap and toured Olympic High School. And I just want to share that Olympic High School has been renovated, and it is a pretty impressive site. Not only is the main building of the renovation very much dedicated to space and light and common areas for students. It's got a great feel that way. It also has tremendous CTE programming that's happening in it as well, including partnership with Boeing, for instance, for a riveting program. So I would say that it's going to be very important that we be organizing field trips so that we can get folks to go see other sites, some of the new buildings. I will be working on that and giving some proposals. I would like to have student participation, so I will be meeting with Ariana and Lincoln to talk more about how that could happen and what's the best way to get people involved. So more to come there. We also had a Common Threads meeting where the superintendents meet with their local association presidents, and we had very good discussion and presentation about, how decisions get made in schools and what are considerations that you need to have, especially in the face of change. And there's so much change that's happening right now on so many levels. It was an excellent time for us to be thoughtful and talk about that. And I don't know if you want to add anything to it.
No, just, yeah, I appreciated there's, especially in these times with so much happening, and it was a well-timed conversation, and yeah, I felt like it was a great activity, and there was one conversation that I actually kept that might lend itself to one of our other agenda items regarding cell phones. There's a couple of stories that came up, and I just thought those were the timely shared, but yeah, I don't know if there's specifics that I would add.
Okay. Also, our Gray Wolf Elementary School has started the recruitment of kindergartners. And so a kindergarten information night was held on April 7th so that parents could come and hear what kindergarten registration procedure is like, what to expect upon arrival to kindergarten, how to prepare your child for kindergarten, and then have the ability to ask any question to get your needs met prior to registration. Registration is going to be underway, and we're really looking forward to the next class. It'll be quite exciting. We also hosted the Haller Foundation here for reviewing the scholarship notebook for the Haller Foundation applicants. And there were so many worthy student scholarship notebooks from multiple school districts because the Haller Foundation reaches across Clallam County. And so I will say I was very impressed with students from all of schools, including SCWIM, of course, but we appreciate the Haller Foundation and all of the support they bring to students and schools. I do participate in the OSPI virtual meetings with Superintendent Reichdahl to make sure we're staying up to date on all of the, speaking of change, different initiatives that are either coming through state school decision making, or also to just track what is changing on a legislative lens or from federal side decision making. So we're keeping up with all of that, and I will certainly make sure you know what you need to know as those things occur. We did have our facilities and maintenance department have an appreciation lunch sponsored by Director Sanos, and it was well attended and well received. Thank you for that, and recognizing our employees, because that work they did during spring break that Mike just reviewed was substantial. So wanted to say thank you. We are underway with teacher negotiations, and so we will be going ahead and making sure that we have updates as they're necessary. Our first session was really around norms and some initial issues that we wanted to discuss, and it was a very collaborative meeting space, and our teams are going to get down to work again at the end of April. We have budget work in full swing. We just had a budget meeting today. We'll have several this week. We are tracking toward an early budget season, of course, because of cumulative coming. So we're getting closer and closer, and we'll be bringing you an update soon. And then WASA did approach our school district along with many others to support ESDs. Right now, ESDs are being reviewed in the legislature, and we want to be sure we are supporting the fact that we get a lot of value from our ESDs. And just think alone, ESD 114, we certainly have had a lot of work from Jason Rhodes with finance. We have contracted service providers from the ESD. We have professional development that is supported significantly by the ESD. And I also would share with you, we turned to ESD 112 this year for communications support. So I'm certainly in support there. Kaleidoscope Magazine, our next edition will be coming out in the next several days, so be on the lookout for that. And we also have a Show What You Know campaign going on in our schools. We have state testing that's happening, and we want students to experience this in their school lives as being just an opportunity to demonstrate all that you've learned, all that you've been supported in gathering as knowledge and abilities. And we want you to show what you know and have it be a positive relationship with testing. And that's it.
One comment comment I would make, I believe that it was, and I'm not sure who else may have been there, but I believe it was Olympic High School that we had there was a WASDA regional meeting that took place there. And I would just add that I was very impressed with the location and the facilities. And I remember thinking to myself, very much during that visit, what could be, not that it would look exactly like it, but it's like, this is something that how amazing would it be for our high schoolers to be experiencing this type of facility that really shows that our community cares about the experience that our high schoolers have, the educational experience. So I just wanted to comment that those thoughts are still fresh in my mind, even though that was maybe 2 years
2 or
ago.
3 years ago.
Well, I remember you talking about it at the time, like, whoa, this
Yeah.
school.
Yeah.
And I just think that we need to have the expectation that we will provide for our students and provide, and the only way to do that is to see what's possible and to go to these high schools and say, wow, why don't we do something like that? So that's great.
I'd say we're maybe on the path.
Yes, we are on the path. And I also want to compliment Olympic High School's culture. The building has all of the attributes you could maximize to have a great feeling high school, but for the people in it, I just have to say the welcoming atmosphere, the enthusiasm about their own facility, they're very proud. And then the students clearly have had communal experiences because they're very outgoing and willing to engage. And it was really great. Yeah.
Well, that's an interesting point because I believe that our meeting there was a Saturday, if I'm not mistaken. So one thing that we missed out is, of course, the most important thing, the students
Yeah.
inside the building. Like so that's great to hear as well.
Yeah, I'd encourage all the trips to other schools so we can see what other schools look like. We kind of get in our own little fishbowl here and we don't realize what other schools look like. I think a lot of the athletic teams, they see what other schools look like, but we don't. And if we can get somehow the public, maybe photographs or videos of visits to various schools, so the community can also see what's possible, or what high schools look like these days.
Yeah.
Because the high school we have here looks like the high school, that I had, 50, 60 years ago. And some of the new high schools are, they build in, I'm guessing they purposefully build in structures, designs that would encourage positive culture among the students. Like at Olympic, their cafeteria area, one whole side of the cafeteria is basically stadium seating, where, I don't know if all their student body could get in there for an assembly or not, but it looked like it. But students can sit on the risers and eat lunch and so on. It was very impressive. And their CTE program, the way they have it set up with windows, I remember, so that passers-by could look inside and see what was going on. As opposed to behind the, mysterious closed door. I wonder what they're doing in there, so.
Great
Yeah.
campus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some,
There it is, right
oh,
there.
yeah, there it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's that area.
Yeah, so. Great. All right, any other questions for Regan? Okay. Next, we'll start with board business, and we first have the, we already talked about this, the assessment that, Director Santos already talked about.
That takes a motion, right?
Yeah.
I move we approve the annual ICOS assessment report, all 84 pages,
I second.
or
Okay.
87, whatever it was.
All right, do we have any discussion?
I think it would be worth looking through that and seeing what it tells us, but it is a huge report. So appreciate Mike and the administration looking through it, probably with a fine tooth comb. And before the bond issue, and it backs up some of the things that are necessary in the bonds that we pass.
Yeah. Advisory vote?
Aye.
Thank you. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 All right, motion passes. Next we have the approval of the I love you guys protocols.
I move that we approve the I love you guys protocols.
I'll second.
Okay. Any discussion or further discussion? All right, advisory vote?
Aye.
Thank you. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 All right, Pat, was that an aye?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right, that motion passes unanimously. Next, we have the, oh, let me see, sorry, I got to turn around here. Sure. Yes, the approve the annual high cap plan.
I move that we approve the annual highly capable plan.
I second.
Any discussion? Advisory vote?
Aye.
Thank you. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Aye, motion passes unanimously. Next we have the cell phone discussion. And I know Director Halverson, you had brought this up, and Regan, you wanted to introduce this? Sure. Okay.
So in our school district, we have been having the off and away procedure. And we have two policies in our school district, policy 3245, students in telecommunications and electronic devices, and policy 2022, electronic resources and internet safety, that guide how we interact with cell phones primarily. What I will say is that the legislature in the state of Washington has started to take some steps toward wanting to have some influence about the allowance of cell phones in schools and their use. And last year, House Bill 2018 was introduced and it died. And that bill was to do a few things, but to really start to shape a policy through WASDA for all schools in Washington to adopt, and also to try to control for how much the prevalence of cell phones in schools was happening. This year, HB House Bill 1122 has been presented by the same authors with pretty much the same intention, but they've added a component which I think is interesting. It is a call to gather all of the cell phone policies and procedures that are out there in Washington state schools right now, and to study what all of those different approaches and expectations are, so that a policy can be built based on what has worked. So I think that is a thoughtful response, and this has gone forward to be considered in the Ed Committee. What I would share is that we have an ultimate goal here in Sequim School District, and that's a goal for students to have well-being and also to have academic experiences each and every day in their education, collaborative experiences, social experiences that are positive and developmentally appropriate. And the discussion about cell phones' influence in all of those areas is very important to have. And we know that the research is showing us that the impact is significant. We have data from our own teachers that shows that there is kind of a reticence of students to have their phones taken away, which we would call maybe a ban, no phones, versus ways to work with different developmental levels so that the phones are put away and not being negative influences on the education, the social experiences, and the collaboration in the classroom. So I think this is a great starting point for our discussion again. I know we had brought this up previously in the fall, and we have Lincoln here to talk to us about what we do see in the student experience right now. And we'll have the discussion, and I'll bring a couple other ideas to the table when you are ready for those.
And I just wanna, I already referenced one thing to this. This was a conversation that came up in the Common Threads presentation. Not that that was the point of it, but one of the things that the presenter had mentioned, I want to say it was Auburn School District, but there was a district that but it could be wrong with that, but school district that he was, and he wasn't there to observe whether or not cell phone, like, wasn't there to observe it, but it took him went into during lunchtime into a cafeteria, and lunchtime, I think, is also, it's like, wonder about that. Is it a cell phone space, not a cell phone space? But it took him a little while to really understand what he was seeing that was different. But he visits schools all over the place, and it took him about 5-10 minutes, and he just said, "What, something's off here," and was just observing all of these students just having all these healthy interactions and conversations with each other. And it didn't strike him because he just wasn't, it wasn't the norm for him, because a lot of times he goes into a cafeteria and sees, people eating heads down, kind of off in their own spaces. And so, I don't know, it is interesting to me that, what a different environment might look like. I know we're talking about a pretty significant change. Whether or not it's going to influence all areas of the experience, student experience versus the classroom experience, I think are good discussions to have. But I just wanted to, since I already mentioned that, I just wanted to let folks know that was something that I found. Certainly, I guess like, hey, well, I can appreciate that, because normally I hadn't even considered outside of the classroom as a component. But yeah.
Well, I think that those are a couple things we really need to think about. Whether I worry a little bit about a study that will go on for some time, when I sort of feel like this is kind of an urgent issue for learning in the classroom. And I don't think there's any reason why not we can't, alongside whatever study is being conducted by a WASDA group or whatever, to explore things on our own in our district. And that could start with maybe not so much anecdotal, but doing a real deep survey of teachers and what their classroom climate is like, and of students, and sort of getting a picture that is pretty full, versus hearing a story, to seeing really what everyone's experiencing, because I've heard a variety of things, and I would be really interested in that. So it seems to me that we can still move forward with something like that to gain information about our district. And I appreciate your point, Eric, also about the cafeteria, because to me, there's like two models. One is that you have limited access in your classroom and you still have your phone on you. And then in the hallway or at lunchtime, you have your phone versus a global removal of the phone in the morning and then throughout the day, and then you get it back at the end of the day, which, you know, would be a very different experience.
Sure.
But it seems to me the way to tackle that is to do a survey, and maybe even a survey of parents too, to ask what they're seeing at home. So did you want to weigh in?
Yeah.
This is a really hard task to tackle. I mean, there's such a wide range of possibilities for how to solve this. And no matter what, somebody's going to be mad. So I think that no matter what is landed upon, you have to be 100% certain on it. And I think just from a student perspective, I think a total ban will never work out properly. I think will be almost impossible to fully ban a cell phone in a school. I think it's possible to restrict it to a high capacity, but you will never fully be without a cell phone. I can't see that working out, especially with how much people use them and how the lengths people may be willing to go to just to hide it. So that way it's not taken from them. I think it's definitely a very difficult task that you have on hand.
I wonder if we could do something like a 1-week challenge and just do it as an activity at the school where students might discover what it's like without their phone. They may hate it, absolutely, but that might be one idea too.
I kind of agree with Lincoln. The word ban bothers me because that would require quite a bit more enforcement. Locked cubbies to put phones in, or the bags to put phones in, and you know, it could get extreme. Wanding all the students to make sure they don't have their cell phone. I mean, a ban bothers me. Off and away, where the students take responsibility for keeping their cell phones off and only using them at appropriate times, seems to me, especially at the older ages, makes sense. But I could see where at the elementary level, cell phone screen time, cell phone use means restricting. It means one thing. At the middle school, it might mean something else, and at the high school, it might mean something else altogether, especially students that are 18 or over. And I suppose it applies to how we use it as adults in the building as well. So I think I don't know about experiments, but I think it's going to take some serious study. I mean, everything I read kind of says that part of our educational decline, they do lay at the doorstep of cell phone use. But the good articles or the good researchers also list about 10 or 15 other things that contributed to the decline in test scores or learning besides the phone. But I think the phone is the most obvious because it is disrupting. And, you know, students have their cell phones out and they're scrolling through them. They're not really paying attention. Oh, I can multitask, but if you read multitasking studies, the human brain does not multitask. It can go back and forth from one thing to another, but it can't handle multitask all at the same time. So I think there's a lot to be looked at. But I agree, a total ban would be an imposition on the staff to enforce it, and a challenge for students to overcome it.
I want to make one more point though related to that, and that is I have concerns about teachers being put in the position of constantly enforcing in the classroom. If kids have their phones on them, put away, but they're sort of getting them out, then the teacher is the one who has to enforce. Versus if you had removal in the morning and they don't have the phone all day, that's a different situation with staff. So just but I'd be interested also to know what teachers think about that.
It'd be the principal and the assistant principal at the front door. That would be their job for the morning.
Yeah,
The teachers are off the hook. I'm not sure I agree with that
yeah.
totally either.
I just want to share just a little bit about, I have changed my view a little bit on this as a teacher, not that it's not, don't experience this too much in the elementary range, but I have a lot of colleagues that have thoughts on it. And originally, my perspective was, well, this should be, classroom by classroom, how a teacher manages their classroom should be, up to them. But a lot of my conversations, have actually shifted a little bit to where I believe that there's a lot of teachers that kind of want the backing of a district-wide policy. So it's not them that's having to be the bad guy, so to speak, and that, hey, this is the policy, but then really it's just like, we don't make that rule, but let's get engaged in learning and the activities. And so that was an interesting transformation for me. With I just assumed, well, shouldn't it be, it's all about that teacher autonomy? Well, no, in this case it's a little bit more nuanced than that. And so there could be a value in the district sort of having the back of what, and yes, are there going to be nuances where there are violations? Absolutely. I don't think we're going to be able to prevent that. We're not going to be able to prevent every occurrence of it happening. I think a lot of things to work out, but system-wide, could it actually have a real benefit to not only the academic experience for our students, but just the social emotional experience that they have and being able to engage more? Yeah, absolutely. I think it's inevitable.
So one word I haven't heard come up tonight is addiction. And I do want to bring to all of us that this is bigger than just our educational environment. We do have concerns for some. I don't want to generalize. Not every student manages themselves and their phone in the same way. So there are things to be learned from each other and ways to overcome situations where we may have addiction. But another thing I'd really like us to look at is how can the school and educational environment be a helping hand to mitigate the start of addiction? Because it is so tempting, and there are certain developmental levels where students are pulled in and don't have the skills yet to necessarily keep themselves managed. So I think in order to consider some of these different aspects, one thing we need to do is some education together. And I would like to pose that we all put down our cell phones and do something rather old-fashioned and read. So I'm going to be posing to our community. That will be our staff, certainly, our parents out there, our community. I've met with the library. They're willing to help support us with this. We're going to start a book study, and we're going to invite students to participate as well. We actually have two choices that we'll be coming out with, and that is Parenting in the Screen Age, a guide for calm conversations. This is more of a book for parents who might be in a situation where they recognize that their children are having challenges with cell phones or screens, and they would like some helpful kind of background and actual strategies to have conversations with their children. Then we have a bestseller that's been out there, and it's still on the top 10 list in Amazon now, even after so long, The Anxious Generation, How the Great Rewiring of Childhood is Causing an Epidemic of Mental Illness. This book talks a lot about social deprivation. It talks about attention fragmentation, which I think is what you were getting at, Director Jeffries, sleep deprivation. just the commitment that school takes. We heard about all those awesome sports. Think about the day. Some students are going to school at 7, they're not getting home till 11 at night, and then on phones. It's a challenge for anyone. And then, of course, our issues that you've already brought up about what's happening actually in the school environment. So there's so much to know and to discuss. I think that the surveying is a critical path for us, and making sure we're surveying all of the groups that are affected, meaning teachers, students, parents, will be very important. I think we could move out on, as you said, take action in an urgent way and start an exploration.
The addiction component, I feel like is, I don't even know if folks, well, maybe folks do. I think it's just important that we educate ourselves on it, because
It's not just children.
I know. I find myself, like, I remember early on as a teacher, I'd just go to YouTube and I'd educate myself on just teaching strategies, and I'd say, oh, I'm gonna, I watch a 10-minute video, and now I open up the app and I don't know what they are, the reels or whatnot, and I find all of a sudden it's like 15 minutes have gone by and I've watched nothing useful. I'm like, what am I doing? It's like, and it gets frustrating, actually. That's not even why I opened the app, right? I was looking for something, or but I'm just gonna call it out. It's real.
It is real.
Yeah.
And one of the best gifts I believe we could give students coming through our system is exactly what Lincoln has said. It's a reality that technology is with us and it's going to be a part of any child's life forevermore. But how do you manage it? How do you leverage it to only be a benefit to you? And then how do you face the challenges with whatever technology you might have? So starting with cell phones, fair place. But I think both of these reads that we'll work on in the survey can also spread out to other aspects, because schools are providing students with devices. So, laptops come into your life quite young. iPads in some school districts are issued as soon as you're in kindergarten. We aren't that school district, but we need to face that self-management's huge.
Do you want to, Pat, do you have any thoughts on this you want to share?
Yeah, I obviously share a lot of the same concerns that have already been articulated, and some of the same personal challenges myself of managing my own device use. And I certainly really listened to what Lincoln said, and I understand the challenge that we face in asking students to and families to restrict the use of cell phones during school and access to cell phones during school. But I think the idea of making sure that we're getting input from a broad range of people, from parents and students and teachers, is obviously very important. I am very encouraged that Superintendent Nichols is talking about doing some reading and educating of ourselves and our community about what the science is showing us about how these devices are affecting really as the title says, the wiring of our brains, and how, what are the long-term possible detrimental effects of that. And I don't think that we can ignore that. And so I really hope that a combination of reaching out for input and also reaching out with educational and informational paths that will hopefully help people understand that this is not, just because it's disruptive in the classroom, although obviously it is, but it's a real concern about what, where our students will be in terms of their ability to focus, their ability to process information, their ability to interact with the world outside of a screen. And we have an obligation to try to adopt the absolute best policies that will give our students the best chance of being successful in the future. And that includes the policies that we adopt regarding technology use. And as Superintendent Nichols said, that's not just cell phones, it's the way that we use technology in the classrooms as well. So anyway, I'm glad we're having this discussion, and I look forward to seeing how it proceeds.
I just want to amplify what Pat said too, that this is really not an option, it's a responsibility. When I think about brain development, especially at the middle school years when kids really get into their phones, that's really something we as a school district are responsible for, I think. So yeah.
Yeah, the title of that book, and I don't think a lot of people realize when it talks about rewiring
Yeah.
kids' brains, the neuroplasticity. Screen time develops a different part of the brain than reading a book, than playing in the playground. And it looks like students that spend all their time on their tablet or on their cell phone are missing out on brain development opportunities on the playground and other places, social interaction with others, and they're not developing that part of their brain. And it evidently is a lifelong change. It doesn't, they'll grow out of it when they're in their 20s or 30s. They don't. Coming this afternoon, I'd gone shopping downtown with my wife. We're coming by Applebee's to get on to the 101, and there was a guy in front of us driving a little bit strangely. And I noticed he had his cell phone up here, and I don't know if he was a tourist looking for Google Maps to tell him where to go. He stopped right at the on-ramp, right in the middle of the on-ramp, oblivious to where he was or
He was
what
in his
traffic.
phone.
Right on his phone. And I took the chance and went around him, and that might have woken him up a little bit, I don't know. Or but adults too get mesmerized by the screen. And time can fly by.
Yeah. Anything further at this time? I know we're gonna proceed with book studies, but also maybe some data collection as well.
Yes, we will move out in those directions, and thank you for all of your input, and I'll be seeking you and Ariana to do more work with me on the student side.
Next we have a couple policies to review. First reading and approval of policy 2415, performance-based pathways. Believe both of these are being presented and recommended by the policy committee, correct?
Yes.
You want to say anything before we?
Sure. Both of these policies have been recommended in policy and legal news. Districts have the options in Washington State for pathways that do have students following interests and goals. Actually, our policy committee is moving forward with this pathway policy as written because we want to have flexibility for some unique situations that sometimes present themselves, even with students who transfer to our high school. It may have been in certain programming in the past, and we may not have the same programming that they can line up. So we want to have the flexibility to serve them.
I move policy 2415, performance-based pathways, to a second reading.
I second.
Any discussion? Advisory vote?
Aye.
All in favor of moving this on to a second reading, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion passes. Next, we have policy 4300, immigration enforcement in schools.
This also went before the policy committee in relationship to WASDA recommendations. What we have worked with on this policy is actually changing the title. The title previously had been limiting immigration enforcement in schools. We want it simply to be the pathway that we follow when we have immigration enforcement in schools, if we ever were to. And it is a policy that outlines steps. So while we'll have a sister procedure to this, it is very clear in this policy the number of interactions, requests, the phone calls to make, the positions that have authority to make decisions, very clear. So we'd like to have that well laid out so that if there were to ever be a visit, it's handled professionally and within state law.
I would entertain a motion on this.
I move that we move policy 4300, immigration enforcement in schools, to a second reading.
I'll second.
Discussion on this, I do want to share just because he isn't present. But Director Roca did reach out to me with a couple of questions that he had on this particular one, and I certainly reassured him that even though it was on the agenda tonight and I knew he wasn't going to be able to be present, that it wasn't a final approval on this, and so we can make sure that any questions, that he possibly has gets answered, or and certainly before taking final action, if there is a desire to take a look at something specific on this, that he will still have that opportunity. So as chair, I just wanted to elevate his comments to the rest of you.
So right now, this is a hot topic in our nation and in our state. So I assume down the road, depending on where that discussion leads and whatever laws that we need to follow, guidance from our state governor, attorney general, OSPI on approaches. And if the law changes, where we are mandated to do something differently, we'd have to take a look at our policies and procedures and make sure we're in the line, I would assume.
OSPI has done a very good job of charting the requirements. And so we have another document that also allows us to have an excellent guide step by step with all of the expectations too. And I'm sure they'll update that.
Any other discussion? All right, advisory vote?
Aye.
All in favor of moving policy 4300 onto a second reading, please signify by saying aye.
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 Alright, motion passes. And I do believe that concludes our action for this evening. So, right, we have no additional recess or anything, okay?
I will say that the next meeting, April 28th, is the middle of my jury duty. And so I think there's also a financial or budget meeting before that meeting. I may or may not, cannot predict whether I'll be available or not. Jury duty starts the 21st of April, ends May 2nd. And I've served on a jury before and kind of looking forward to it, but for personal health reasons and so on, I may or may not still be on the jury at that time. Who knows? But I just thought I'd tell you.
Thank you.
All right.
A reminder that we do have the WASDA Awards dinner coming up next week. And so we probably should just discuss contacting Tracy about organizing if there's any interest in carpooling on anybody's mind.
I'll be jury duty.
Yes. Mhm.
All right. And our next, when is our next, regular meeting?
April 28th.
April 28th. So one thing I will note, the WASDA platform revision window is currently, open. Right?
Mhm,
Yeah,
for the end of
until-
the month.
and closes on the 30th. And so if there is interest in submitting a proposal, there's still time. We would just, as a school board, need to vote on it the next school board meeting. So certainly reach out to me or to Larry, or if that's something you want to submit. So with that, we'll go ahead and adjourn.